What's going on, fellow Commanders of Calm? My name is Dan,
I'm Chris.
and today we're doing our best Watch Mojo impression by doing our top 10 teams going into the NFL 2023 season. The preseason is over, and we're just kind of getting give our thoughts on how the preseason went. This isn't going to be entirely based on the preseason, but Chris, what else do you want to add to this?
This is also taking a lot of stuff from what happened last year, how those teams looked, acquisitions in the offseason, how teams were playing during the preseason, the starters that it mattered to. I know a lot of teams don't play starters in the preseason, so kind of seeing what their depth and their rookies look like as well, kind of taking that into account.
Absolutely. We are going to give some honorable mentions, some teams that did not make the final top 10, just like Watch Mojo. and yeah, but first, here's a video.
Alrighty, guys. So, starting with the honorable mentions, we're going to start talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers. You know, it's kind of hard to talk about the Steelers, of course, being a Ravens fan, but I'll be 100% honest with you. If we did a top 10 teams that scared me with how they played in the preseason, Steelers probably number one for me. They played really well in the preseason. Their team looks good. They have probably an arguable top five defense in the NFL, so I really look for them to do pretty good this season. If they were probably going to be on this list, it would be like 11 or 12. They'd be right there close to top 10. I think they're going to be a really good team this year, which is terrifying to think about because the AFC North is going to be a bloodbath, I think.
I agree. I think we had them as making the playoffs, maybe over the Dolphins if a few things go a few ways. I agree that Kenny Pickett is showing a remarkable improvement. I think with TJ Watt on that team, it's always going to be a great top 10 defense. So, and I don't think they're going to ever have a losing season for some reason. But yeah, I agree. They're pretty scary right now. I honestly, AFC North, it might be three teams going to the playoffs depending on what happens. But then let's go ahead then and talk about Dallas Cowboys. Look, their defense is always going to be top tier, and the guy they got to pick in the with their first round pick this year, I forget what his name is. He looked really good. They did just get Trey Lance, so I don't know if that necessarily shows confidence in Dak Prescott or not. They did lose Zeke, which I think kind of was a good thing, not necessarily a bad thing. I think that the Cowboys' biggest problem has always been Jerry's hubris, Jerry Jones's hubris. I don't know how well Mike McCarthy is going to be kind of taking over the role of the offensive play caller this year. I know they got a new OC, but Kellen Moore, I know that, well, that kind of leads into the next team we're going to talk about. But Dallas, yeah, if I was going to put them on a list, I'd probably put them around like 13 or 12, kind of the same deal. I can see them making the playoffs, and we'll just leave it at that.
Could definitely see them making the playoffs. I think they are the third best team in the division. That's just me personally on that. But yeah,
That's fair. I'm a little mad because last year all four teams from the NFC East could have gone to the playoffs, but whatever.
they really could have. It was so close. Next, we should talk about the Chargers. Chargers are a team that I think is interesting. With that being said, I think they're going to be a pretty decent team. I'd probably put them number 14 if I had put them on the list. They got a good quarterback. I do think he's like a little bit overrated personally, but he is a good quarterback. They have a good receiving core. They have a top 10 defense. I wouldn't put them in top 5 like I would Dallas and Pittsburgh. They got a top 10 defense, so, there's a good chance that they're going to be sneaking into the playoffs. The AFC is going to be hard in general. It's kind of up in the air. With it just really depends on how a lot of these teams play.
Well, I certainly think that they are going to. Well, I certainly think that they have a chance of making the playoffs, but I don't see them going much farther than maybe like one win. To be honest with you,
That's 100% where I'd put them at. Bring me to another team that I'd probably put at 11 or 12 up at the top.
honestly, I'd argue for them to be at 10, but that's just me.
No, that's a good point. They are a good team that we could put at 10. I think the 10 does edge them out a little bit. But when it comes to all these different teams, the Lions are probably the best team out of all of them. I think they have a really good defense, probably top 10, I would say. And they're probably going to have probably one of the better offenses in the NFL. I know that they don't have Jameson Williams because he gambled during the season.
Yeah, but even without Jamison Williams, I mean, Amon-Ra St. Brown is really good. Jared Goff, he's a big question mark. I think he'll make improvements. I think Aiden Hutchinson is going to make some improvements this year at defensive end. So we'll see. But I agree that I think this is like right on the edge of 10, maybe even 9 if we're being honest here. I think they're going to surprise a lot of people. But now let's go ahead and talk about another NFC team that I really wanted to mention. And keep in mind, everyone, this is not like 11 to 15, 15 to 11. This is all just teams that we wanted to mention here. We're not ranking these honorable mentions as being better or worse than the other. But basically, Washington Commanders. Let's be fair here. They went 3-0 for the first time since 2013 in the preseason. I know it doesn't matter, but I saw some improvements. I think Eric Bieniemy is really helping them out. I think Ron Rivera, if he doesn't get us to the playoffs, maybe even win a playoff game, I think that's how he's going to keep his job. But if not, he's going to be replaced next year with Eric Bieniemy, who's already the assistant head coach. But I saw some good things. New running back, I can't remember what his name was. He did really good. But the wide receivers, Terry McLaurin, Curtis Samuel, De'Ami Brown, they're all doing good. The new tight end, I can't remember what his name is. I think it's Logan something. Really good. So I think a lot of people are counting the Commanders out already. They're already writing them off. I think they're going to shock some people this year, maybe even more than the Lions, because I think the Lions have higher expectations than the Commanders.
Yeah, I would say the Lions have much higher expectations than the Commanders. So if the Commanders do really good this year, that's exactly what you want. I mean, you're developing a quarterback, so by theory, you should be a fringe playoff team. But if you do pretty good and make yourself to the playoffs, that's also quite impressive at the same time.
It'd just be really nice. I'd be happy with just winning a playoff game for the first time since 2005. As you can tell, I'm both a Ravens fan and a Commanders fan. So, all right, Chris, let's go ahead. Let's get into this top 10 list. Who do you have at number 10? We talked about this before we started recording. We agreed on this. So, who's number 10?
Alrighty, so starting with the top 10 list, we got the Vikings, our fellow Purple Brothers.
I think that they're good, not great, personally.
That's fair. I'm going off of last season. Now, I will say they did collapse against the Giants in the playoffs last season, so that is a bit concerning. But they have a really good defense. They have arguably the best wide receiver, and probably, in my opinion, honestly, if we're going to talk about Kirk Cousins, a highly underrated quarterback. I think he's actually pretty decent.
I mean, he's not the worst. If he had stayed in Washington, it would have maybe worked out for the better. I don't know. But I agree, Justin Jefferson is probably one of the best, if not the best wide receivers right now. Jordan Addison, I was high on him before the draft. Not too mad that we didn't get him. But, I agree with them being 10. Honestly, though, if you would have told me right before we did this, if I wanted to put in the Lions over the Vikings, I would have done that.
That's fair. I feel like they could be interchangeable. The two could be.
I personally think the Lions are going to win the division, but that's just me. But moving on to number 9, we're going to stay in the NFC here. Instead of the North, we're going West. Seattle Seahawks. This was a team that outperformed a lot of people's expectations from last year. We had Geno Smith as the quarterback, and kind of everyone thought that Seattle had lost that trade when Russell Wilson went to Denver, but obviously this team went to the playoffs and Denver did not. I think with DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, they're good. Jackson Smith and Jigba, I believe he hurt his wrist or something like that in the preseason, so that does give me cause for concern. But the guy they got playing on his behalf, Jake Bobo, apparently was turning some heads as well. That's a good, I think that's a pretty good depth chart there for wide receiver. They also have Bobby Wagner, so sorry to the person who called us out for not even mentioning Bobby Wagner in our NFC West video. Sorry. But yeah, I think number 9 is a pretty appropriate place to put them.
Yeah, I wasn't too concerned about the not talking about Bobby Wagner for Seattle and the Rams, just because he's not who he used to be. He used to be really good, and that's nothing against him. And he's still a good linebacker, but it's just like, it's not like if Khalil Mack or, Von Miller or someone like that.
Switching gears here, though, we're going to go to the other side of the country. We're going to talk about the New Jersey Jets. Well, New York Jets, which they have a lot of talent. Gotta say, Aaron Rodgers played his first preseason game, and I don't even know how long. And he seems really like his batteries have been recharged. He's happier there, so that's obviously a good thing. A lot of people have them as going to the playoffs this year, maybe even win the division. But I think the Bills are going to be really tough to beat. But again, their talent, Sauce Gardner, I think is going to be really competitive again this year. And they got Dalvin Cook, so there's that too. But Garrett Wilson, Allen Lazard, Randall Cobb, I think this is looking better than how Denver was this time last year, just saying. And you and me had them going to the Super Bowl, Denver, which, that wasn't right.
Yeah, I don't know if I had them going to the Super Bowl, but I definitely had them in like my top 5 teams that were going into the season. Thought they were going to be amazing. Speaking of teams that are in top 5, let's talk about number 1. they're not actually number one, they're number 7, but the Baltimore Ravens, I would say preseason didn't really nothing really much on preseason. There was a couple guys that impressed me. Michael Keaton, the running back, he ended up making the roster, so that'll be sick. I think he's going to be a really good running back for the Ravens. I think he might be a secret weapon. Speaking of secret weapons, I also just got a Zay Flowers jersey. I thought he looked really good in the preseason. Everything I've heard from camp is just that he's been tearing it up. He looks like the number one receiver. The defense is just phenomenal. I think they're going to be one of the best. Not wanting to put them at number one hurts. I do want to do that because I'm extremely biased. But, if I'm thinking realistically, there's a chance that they have a season where they do good, but they have to gel. They have to get their team together. They might have some growing pains with that, with it being a new team. So, I understand that. So, I got to bring down the expectations a little bit. Super Bowl win.
I'm actually pretty happy that they lost in the preseason because I feel like just that record it just really was making them play their starters, and the stars were getting hurt, and it was really hurting them in the regular season. So, which, by the way, they also released Melvin Gordon. He didn't make the roster. Interesting. But yeah, they got Lamar Jackson, Tyler Huntley. I think they're fine there. I think Tyler Huntley is not as good as other people might think he is. No disrespect intended, but let's just hope that Lamar stays healthy this whole year. I like him, don't love him.
He's not Lamar, but yeah, he's a good backup to have.
And then wide receivers, Rashad Bateman, Odell Beckham, and Zay Flowers being the top 3. You got Nelson Aguilar, Devin Duvernay, Tylan Wallace. Cool, no worries. Mark Andrews is always going to be great. Isaiah Likely. I mean, the team looks pretty good on paper. So here's hope. And we got Jadeveon Clowney.
That was a pretty good acquisition as well. I think he's going to do pretty good, personally. I think he's going to tear it up with David Ojabo and Owe on the side. I think they're going to have one heck of a season together. Very excited. And thank you again, once again, you know who you are, for the chance to be able to go see a game this year. That's going to be awesome.
Yeah, actually, Chris's birthday was this past week, and I was with the person who gave us tickets to go see the games, and he told me, hey, if Chris wants to go to the Seattle game, the person I gave the tickets to originally backed out, so if he wants them, they're his. So
I'm pretty excited, guys.
Yeah, so you get to go to 2 games back-to-back, actually. Hey, if I wasn't out of town, I'd be going there. So, also, I think Patrick Queen, this is the make-or-break year for him, but let's not spend too much time on the Ravens and be biased. So... yeah, next team, we're going down to, not the Bayou, but pretty close. We're going to Jacksonville.
So going over to the Jacksonville Jaguars, I think they're going to be one of the best teams this year. That's why they're on the list, obviously, at number 6. With that being said, I personally think you got to watch out for Calvin Ridley this year. I think he's going to have a phenomenal season. He's well rested. He's young. It's not like it's an older receiver coming off a year, kind of like Odell, who, not exactly sure how they're going to pan out. I think he looked really good with what reps we did see from him. Jacksonville's going to be terrifying. They have a young defense, not a great defense, but a young defense.
And I think that division is pretty much theirs for the taking. I don't think there's going to be much competition elsewhere in the division, unless a team really surprises us.
Yeah, the transition between Urban Meyer to Doug Peterson is pretty amazing. And I'm really glad to see the development of Trevor Lawrence. I got his rookie card. He's dope. I think he's going to have a good season.
Well, speaking of a place where there's not a whole lot of sunshine in the wintertime, we're going to go to New York. We're going to go to Buffalo. Number 5, we got them Buffalo Bills. I just think on paper, this team has the components. They're regressing, though. If it weren't for the little bit of regression at the end of last year, I would have put them at maybe 3 or 2. I think Josh Allen is always going to be good. I don't know if he's ever going to be like the greatest. I think Patrick Mahomes has that locked up right now, at least for this time. But Damar Hamlin is there again, so cool. That'd be awesome. Hope he does well. On paper, they got a great team in the schedule. I think they're still like them, the Jets and the Dolphins are going to kind of battle it out for the division this year. I don't think it's going to be necessarily theirs for the taking again.
Yeah, so they did take a massive hit when it comes to Von Miller not being able to play. He's starting out on the physically unable to perform list for 4 weeks, I do believe is what it is. And then they just traded Boogie Basham, the guy that was supposed to replace him, I do believe. They got a 2nd-round pick for him, and I think he was originally a 3rd-rounder, though. So, hey, good there.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens. But, Daquan Jones, defensive end is good. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But again, I don't think that they right now have. It's going to be tough for them. But I do think currently the way we have this list set up, they're the best in the division. But it could be the Jets or the Dolphins at some point. Moving on, then, let's talk about our friends in the Bay Area, the San Francisco 49ers. They're number 4. And the reason we have them at number 4 and not like number 2 or number 3 is because we just don't know if Brock Purdy was a fluke last year or if he's actually the real deal.
I personally think he's a real deal. We'll be 100% honest. When we were making this list, I was vying for number 2. Just put it out there. But me and Dan kind of talked it out. We decided 4 was probably the best place for them to sit. I think the 49ers have the best offensive weapons on a team I have seen in a long while.
Yeah, it's just they're exactly like the Bills. They have all the pieces. They just need to get over the hump. But moving on, we're going to talk about number 3 here, the Cincinnati Bengals, which, Chris, this team really is make or break, I think, with Joe Burrow. Jamar Chase is really good, but I think that, like, I don't know, it's kind of like peanut butter and jelly. You can enjoy each by themselves, but they're best together.
Yeah, no, the Bengals are going to be a scary team, man.
Sorry for the poor attempted humor to that person who said that. But yeah, go ahead.
Bengals are going to be a scary team. I was talking about how scary the Steelers were looking for me. The Bengals, we know what's there. We know what team they got.
I'm more afraid of the Bengals than the Steelers.
Absolutely. They don't have as good of a defense, but their offense can just hurt you from all over the place.
Well, I think for the Ravens and pretty much everyone else in the division, get to Joe Burrow and you take down the team personally.
I do agree with that.
Obviously, don't, tear his ACL, but, tackle him. Don't kill him. But Chris, who do we got number 2?
Number 2, we're looking at the Philadelphia Eagles. It's only right to put the team that made it to the playoffs and all the way through to the Super Bowl in the number 2 spot. They weren't able to walk away with it. Jalen Hurts was definitely the best player on the team during that time.
Kind of was the running game in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, and then he, 3 rushing touchdowns and a passing touchdown. I can't remember who it was to.
I'm pretty sure all their touchdowns were him. And then maybe a couple field goals, if I remember correctly.
Because he should have been MVP if they'd won, because he was...
Oh, absolutely. He would have gotten MVP, yeah.
Their defensive line, that rotation that they have, that's just going to be scary. Could you imagine lining up against that every day?
I said in the last video, I think Jalen Carter might be the defensive rookie of the year.
Could definitely see it. I think it's going to go to one of the NFC East guys.
You can probably assume who we have at number 1 then. The Arizona Cardinals.
Man, Kyler Murray just gets out there and he just throws that ball and has a great time,
Right. What ACL tear? What? Anyway. No, it's the Kansas City Chiefs.
The Chiefs, we got to put them there. I mean, they are arguably, the Patriots are great. Watching that dynasty, that was mainly in my opinion, watching them was amazing to see that defense. They had a decent offense. When they had Randy Moss, it was one of the best offenses I've seen just because Randy Moss is such a playmaker. But their defenses were great. Now we're kind of flipping the coin on this, and we're seeing one of the greatest offenses we've seen be built with a good defense. Chris Jones, I know they got a situation going on with that right now, but, he's arguably one of the better defensive talents.
I think they should keep him, but, get rid of him. So that way, someone else can get him, Baltimore. But yeah, the Chiefs, I mean, right now, just on paper, I want to see how Eric Bieniemy's absence affects them. Can Andy Reid make it work all by himself? I don't know who their new OC is. I think Patrick Mahomes has enough talent to make it work as long as him and Travis Kelce and Andy Reid are there. Awesome. But let's see what happens.
Let's see what happens. One thing I want to say about the Kansas City offense and with everything that they've had is it's like a Hydra from Greek mythology. You got Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, Travis Kelce, Chris Jones. You got all these great players. Eric Bieniemy was on there. And they showed, Tyreek Hill also showed that he's an amazing number 1 receiver without Patrick Mahomes. That's amazing. Patrick Mahomes still on the team. Tyreek Hill's gone. He goes back to Travis Kelce. He finds different receivers to hit.
Sorry to cut you off. They replaced Orlando Brown is gone, right?
Yeah, that's another one. I was about to mention that as well. He's gone as well. He went over to Cincinnati. It's going to be a great signing for them as well. I should have mentioned that for them earlier. If they're able to perform without the offensive coordinator that a lot of people... Andy Reid called a lot of the plays anyways, but he did call certain plays during crunch situations and stuff like that. And,
I just looked up the new Chiefs OC, Matt Nagy, former Bears head coach.
Is it really?
Yeah, that is interesting. But anyway, thank you all for watching. This is our top 10 teams heading into the preseason. We'll do a review of week 1 when the time comes, and we'll do a predictions again for week 2. But yeah, you'll probably see us do some predictions for week 1 here. Obviously, we did our divisional predictions, but things change. Yeah, that was just our initial prediction, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we're going to see how everything shakes out. I cannot wait to do these picks. They are going to be so exciting to do.
We're going to have a tally.
We're going to have a tally. We're going to see how we do against each other. And if we fail miserably, be here to laugh at us.
Absolutely.
And put your picks in the comment every week. See who you guys have. Keep tally of it with us. It'd be fun to get everybody involved and just have a great time with it. You know, enjoy football for what it is. Football season's back. It's time to have fun.
Get ready to watch the same 4 commercials every commercial break. Well, anyway, thank you all for watching. Please hit that subscribe button. Share this video with your friends.
Make sure to drop that like, hit the comment button, subscribe, and you guys have a fantastic week, and we will catch you in our prediction video. Peace.